morning. Is this on? Do I need to do anything? Is it going to work?
It doesn't go through the speakers. You need to use this or this.
Oh, for Pete's sake. All right, well, I'm just going to go with this then. And this. Brilliant. Okay. Excellent. Good morning, everybody. Okay. All right, so thank you very much, Kevin, for the wonderful introduction. So once again, my name is Stacey Perlin. All right, so I'm the principal consultant for Smashing events and media and marketing. As you can see on my LinkedIn page, it's only been around a few months because I am coming down off of starting up a couple larger scale community organizations called Rain Dance Alberta and Alberta Buzz, and I'm currently switching gears, which is why I'm standing in front of you guys today. And the reason I'm standing in front of you guys today talking about leveraging your social media is because we all currently use social media. All I'm trying to do is help you encourage your community outreach, your support network, and use your media more effectively. This is going to be fun. So this doesn't really go through any other speaker? Okay, all right then. Excellent. I can work with that. Okay, so just so you guys are aware, I do work with Donna McTaggart. Now, let me just push that. Where am I directing this?
Anywhere.
Anywhere. Really, this is only going to happen the first time that I do this.
Just give her one of these.
Oh. See? There we go. I'm learning. This is excellent. Okay. Excellent. All right. So I work with Donna McTaggart. Donna McTaggart, do you mind just putting your hand up real quick there, please? I'm sure a lot of you guys know her. Now, I have 13 years. She has over 20 years. Now, the interesting thing is that I come from a background in production coordinating in film and television production, and Donna comes from a background in project management in the computer software industry. Now, we both, however, spent significant amounts of our lives working for community organizations and nonprofits, producing and managing small to large scale events. What a is it hobby? Yes, what a hobby to have. All right, so what that means, though, is that we build plans that use various tools or tactics, but we implement timeless strategies and processes that no matter the industry or economy will work to build your business. So because we emphasize the use of tactics that work to better your life overall, the results are well worth the investment. So just to clarify for everybody here, strategy is the who, when, and how. Tactics are the where and what. So we know what we're working with here today. All right. Excellent. Okay, so I'm speaking with you today, right, talking about one of our favorite tactics. Now, I hear everybody here is on Twitter, which is excellent. So I'm just going to focus a lot of what I'm talking about today just using Twitter in context. And then once I get into the agenda, I'll let you guys know what the follow-up is so you guys know exactly what you're going to be taking away from this today. So publicity is the deliberate attempt to manage the public's perception of a subject. So by building relationships to strengthen your platform, you can save thousands in advertising via newspapers, radio, broadcast television, and other forms of traditional media, as well as social media influencers. You can also have more of a say in what ends up in the media. I don't know if a lot of you business owners or professionals here have been interviewed, had what you thought was good publicity, people were paying attention, and then read the newspaper article the next day or saw yourself on the television the next day and went, that's not what I thought I was putting out there. And especially for me coming from the film and television industry, 9 times out of 10, that's usually what happens. The press will use what they think is interesting to the public. Meanwhile, the artist or filmmaker is saying, no, it tells a story. And that's just not enough for the press at the time, so everybody's tweaking all the time. And what I want to do is work with my clients to tweak before you get to the end result so that you guys are both on the same page and that you guys are coming up with a unified message across your online and offline tactics. All right, so let's see how this tactic can help you achieve some of your business development goals. So business development goals like more of your ideal clients and higher profits. So here's our agenda. As you can see, we've already covered, I'm actually going to stand over here. This is interesting. All right, so we've already covered current usage and goals survey. Can everybody hear me okay, by the way? Excellent. Everybody's awake this morning? Excellent. I'm seeing some nods. This is good. Okay, so we're going to be covering why the strategy works, and that's because we're building your life and your business. I don't know about you, but I like being able to work on things that can hit 2 birds, 1 stone. That's my strategy. What this tactic achieves for you, so increased support, less stress, bigger, better client list, and then how it works. Now, we actually had some really great case studies already from Kevin, and in fact, we actually already had a great case study this morning with Positively Natural and Mover Wood. Right there is an example of two companies coming together, finding a charity partner, creating an event that benefits their business, promotes their community, helps their support network and their community of professionals, and at the end of the day, actually brings everybody more business, better visibility, and better clients overall, because they're going to see not only does Eric have a doggy daycare, but he works with pets that go in for therapy usage. So he's reinforcing his brand of working with problem animals, which means his ideal clients with people that do have behaviorally challenged dogs are going to be approaching him more often than somebody that just says, oh, I was in the neighborhood, can you handle my dog? Make sense? Excellent. Okay. Okay, so why the strategy works. So, like I said, the strategy works because it helps you lower your stress levels because you have a community that you're working with. It also helps you lower your stress levels because you're actually getting free publicity as opposed to having to figure out how to pay for it all the time. Oh, okay. All right. So what that's supposed to look like is that there's you in the middle, life on that side, and work on this side. Work doesn't even enter the concept. That's an interesting thing on this slide. All right, so what that means is that you as the CEO or owner, solo professional, freelancer, consultant, is always working to balance your life and your work, right? And oftentimes we'll go, okay, this is what's going to help me better my life. This is what's going to help me better my work. And so I stress tactics that better both your life and your work at the same time. So we get higher quality of life, a better business, which equals less stress. And I don't know about you, but for my clients, that's how we define success. We define success when we wake up in the morning and we want to go to work doing what we love. We wake up with success when we want to have when we have the time to deal with our clients, when we have time to be able to handle the emergencies, the stresses, all those things that come up because, as Kevin was saying, we're human. And we use media that's human, and we work in a world that's based on humanity. We're always going to be making mistakes. And the more that we can cover our butt and create a support network that prevents us from getting there, really, it's going to help us look like better professionals overall. And that's really what publicity is about, is helping us look better to the public and putting a better face. So, if you're like me, you know that being a freelancer, entrepreneur, business owner is much work, and it doesn't move forward until you put in that work. So that can take over our lives, which is why we work so hard to maintain a balance between our life and work. So if we can use time-saving, structured tools that can effectively move our business forward, it makes sense for us to look for tools that can also work to put us into a community that's going to balance our life as well, right? So nothing puts me in a position of being frustrated more quickly than realizing I've wasted time and money. For these reasons, I love the tweaks and pivots that can increase the quality of my life and better my business. The more I enjoy the process, the lower my stress level, the more my life opens up. That, to me, like I said, is why we define success. And that is why this tactic works. Because the motivation is what's the game changer. Because motivation changes your perception. And that's what we're dealing with every day. I mean, let's get to the bottom line here. Business professionals that are sitting in this room don't wake up and go, okay, I have to do this. I mean, maybe you're a student and maybe your teacher has said you have to do this, but even then, you still make the conscious choice to go through and complete the assignment. We all wake up in the morning going, why do I need to do this? What's going to motivate me to make this any easier? And the more that we can make these processes and tactics fun, engaging, part of our lifestyle, the easier it's going to be for us to throw this out on a quarterly basis, whenever you have a promotion, whenever you have something going on that you need some support with or that you want to get into the news, you're going to have a community in place that's going to say, okay, what do you need? Just let me know. I'll throw it into the traffic report. It's one of my favorite ones I hear from many of my contacts. They say, just send me a little blurb and I'll throw it into the traffic report. How many people actually listen to a traffic report? Raise your hands. Oh, so we've got a pretty good audience here, people that are paying attention. Excellent. Now, how many of those people fast forward through your commercials? Every single one of you. Exactly. So I'd much rather get you when you're paying attention to the news than when you're trying to fast forward through your TiVo television programs, or you're flipping through the section of the newspaper that you don't really care about, or you get your 40 emails a day from your newsletters and your blogging, tips and tricks and all of your little industry information. if you focus on getting your message to where people are already paying attention, then you have to work a lot less harder to get them to notice what you're putting out there. So, building your support network, focusing on community, freeing up time to enjoy it. These things all bring you a higher quality of life. Taking a look at the better business, nurturing your niche, getting standardized, or using a standardized structure and getting ideal clients. All those things better your business. Am I making sense so far? Just checking in, we're still awake? Excellent, excellent. Seeing some smiles, good. All right, I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of having fun, obviously. All right, so let's go a little bit more into how this works. Okay, so often as small business owners and freelancers and students and starting out, we don't have a pile of cash to throw around at people. And frankly, I love this. I can throw a pile of money at you, sir, and you're going to act like you're paying attention. You'll probably respond accordingly. You might even come up with some suggestions to help me figure out my goals because I'm throwing a pile of cash at you. However, if I stand in front of you and say, you're not talking to me, you're talking to, my Twitter on Alberta Buzz, you're talking to 1,200 people. All of a sudden, you're like, wait a second, that's 1,200 people that could be potential clients for this person. Or maybe they're going to spread some news that you want them to spread. Maybe I'm an influencer for somebody sitting here as well. That all of a sudden takes that person from just listening to what you're saying to wanting to engage, from wanting to build your brand, and from wanting to help you succeed, because it's going to help them to succeed. And people, I say this to all my clients, my success is your success. If I can help you believe in your brand and help your community believe in your brand, it's going to make it a lot easier to make your business run in the long term. Okay, so I'm just going to go over some of the basics here, and I'm actually going to put this down. All right, so I'm going to go over the basics of crafting a media pitch. Now, that's what I'm talking about. So for tweaking social media to leverage to the media, social media to leverage to the media, a little confusing. What you're doing is you're taking your Twitter, your blog, your Facebook page, your whatever you do on social media, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to say, how do you use that to get the attention of reporters and producers? All right, well, here's a simple idea that's just, the first time I came to Social Media Breakfast, I realized one of the members of the committee, Mike Spears, also works for CBC Radio in Edmonton. Wow, there's an opportunity to build your community and network right there. And that's using your social media to leverage that press relationship because you guys both share a shared value of using social media. A lot of press, they love social media, right? It's that Twitter especially, it's that safe 140 character zone. They don't have to get out of their comfort zone. They don't have to leave their office, and they can pick it up at their convenience. Press love that. They're always looking because they've got a boss saying, what have you found lately? So every day they wake up having to look. Now, if I actually I'm just going to go back quickly to the agenda. Okay, now I want to reinforce here. So we're just going to go over, like I said, theory and practice, and I'll go over a couple of examples. Now, at the end of it, the conclusion and the Q&A, I'm just going to let you guys know the last slide there is going to be a URL that's going to have a form for you to fill out, and it's going to be a copy of these slide notes. Now, because I don't have much time today, I'm not going to be going into detail about the sites to go to, the hashtags to use, or anything like that. I know that you guys are interested in Twitter. I'm assuming a lot of you guys already have blogs. I'm also going to assume that you guys are going to be focused on Facebook. I'm going to use those 3 tactics, and then I'm going to put together, well, actually I've already put together, but I'll put that together for you guys just to say here's a page of what to use for hashtags, a couple of experiments that you can use to test out some branded language. And then also, I'm going to give you guys, there's also a free white paper saying how to look good on camera. So say you get the attention of somebody for the news, they show up at your door, and then what do? It happens. Believe me, really, this stuff does happen. So I'll make sure that I get that to you guys as well. Okay, so let's go back to how it works. Okay, so we're talking about media pitches. Now, a media pitch essentially is actually what Eric and Sean were doing from Riverwood Photo as well. They're basically saying, what's their angle? Okay, so charity partner. They're reinforcing that it's a community event. It's Eric, where is your place located, by the way? Okay, so you have a place on 17th Ave and 14th Street. Now, where is Riverwood Photography located? John? Riverbend, okay. And then you're talking about pets that are used in Alberta Children's Hospital, hospitals all over Alberta or Calgary? Mostly Calgary. Okay, so we have 3 very different businesses. three very different geographic locations. What's connecting them is their values, right? Everybody here in those three groups cares about, people being able to have a support network, that there are pets that need to be nurtured. They obviously all have a value for those things. So that puts them in a really strong position to come together and say, okay, we're going to help each other and promote a cause that we all love. Now, what your media press contacts love about that, I'll actually move over here because I'm not talking to this crowd over here. Now, why that works is because then your press contact is looking at you saying, okay, it's not just about Eric wanting to promote his daycare. Yeah, you got a doggy daycare. That's awesome. There's a few of those in Calgary, right? Just like there's another 5 of every one of what we do here in this room in Calgary. What we want to do is identify and promote our values so that we can get a larger geographic reach. So your press contact, your producer is going to look at their radio show and say, okay, well, instead of getting however many customers that you bring, Eric, they're going to be looking at the geographical spread of a shared value, which goes beyond our geographical borders. And that's why we get the value that we see when we do these combined media pitches. So what is a media pitch? A media pitch essentially is simply a one-page, a paragraph, even a tweet, frankly, you can craft them that well, that combines shared values, shared passions, shared services, and puts them in a way for people to connect, to engage immediately, because there's got to be something that they can do, see, taste, take away, right? That's going to be your press. They're going to say, okay, it's great that we have this, but what's your angle? So, know your angle. It's the first point I'm going to give you guys. Second point, know your audience. Now, obviously, common sense, right? So if we're taking a look at that example again, it's going to be the shared value of pet ownership, of community, of support, of, you guys really did just pick a really solid trio, I have to say. But knowing your audience means that what you put out there, people are also going to want to attend. For example, it doesn't make sense if they had said, okay, we're going to put together an event that promotes a rock show. Okay, well, that's great that a doggy daycare and a photo studio and a and a dog charity really want to promote a rock show, but why, right? The more you know your audience and what their values are, the easier it is to answer that question. And when the press comes to you, they're going to be banging off these questions in 30 seconds, and you want to have answers. So when you're putting together a media pitch, knowing your audience is going to be the next one. And that's really going to help you figure out your 5 W's and the H, the details. Now, this is actually something that a lot of professionals will forget and startups will forget. And the reason I'm telling you guys this is so that a lot of the work that I do with filmmakers and with artists and cultural artists is that they don't have a lot of infrastructure to hire me or to hire a PR agency to do this stuff. And so if I can teach you guys what to look for and how to craft these on your own, it's going to make it a lot easier for you guys to be there for a long time to come. So, including the 5 W's and H, details are everything. The who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. The more that you can put this in there at the very beginning, right? I'm not sure if you guys have seen press releases or media packages, but for example, if you guys actually just follow these, like I said, it doesn't matter the media that you use. What I'm trying to explain is timeless strategies that'll answer the question, so no matter what you put through, no matter how unprofessional or how rushed it is when it gets to their step, they're going to know that you guys have the core values of the system so that they're going to be able to work with you to better it. All right, so everything that I'm talking about is to help you build better relationships, build a better community, and build a better business. Like I said, that's one of the biggest things that I'm a big fan of, because there's no sense in getting a better business if you've got all of a sudden a rush of customers and you don't have the support network to deal with it. How many businesses have gone into bankruptcy because of Groupon? Really, it happens, okay? We want everyone to pay attention, and we work really hard, and sometimes we're not there and ready to handle the services when all of a sudden everything comes rushing through our door. So if we can work on tactics that build your support network for you as a business person and you personally, that means that you're going to have a much better response when the media does come to your door. So when the media comes to that event, or if they do any coverage, he's going to be ready because he's going to have photography available to take advantage if people show up. He's going to have charity partners that are going to, be able to spread it out to their network to make sure that you get more people showing up. Eric, he's going to be able to have his dogs, he's going to be able to know that this is happening, and then he's made steps to prepare for that. So revealing including the 5 W's and H. So when you're putting together your press release, right, or your media pitch, my apologies. So knowing your angle, so at the very front line, or that very top line, that headline, that subject line, the one thing that you're going to have in your tweet, your blog title, everything is going to be your angle. So I'm going to go through actually an example for this just because it's going to make it a lot simpler. And let me just double check the time. Okay, we're at 9:40. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to go through a little case study here. Last year, I put together a conference called the Indie Filmmakers Weekend. All right, very challenging because there'd never been a filmmakers conference ever before. And I was a brand new brand. Nobody had any idea who I was or why they should care about filmmaking in the first place. I'm not sure where you guys stand, but film in Alberta tends to be like that all over the province. So what I did was I basically used every relationship I had in order to get as far or reach as possible. I created an event that brought together local charity partners that reinforced my vision and values. So I partnered up with an organization called Park. They work with fashion students in order to implement better business practices so that when they get out of their schooling, that they can actually go forward as creative professionals. Similar to what I do with filmmakers and artists, we all want everybody to come out with a business practice or business standards that are going to maintain them for time to come. So we partnered up with Park. Then I brought in the founder of the world's largest independent film festival. If anything is going to get anyone's attention, I figured this will be it. But here's the interesting thing. I didn't pay thousands of dollars to get Elliot to fly in. I called him. I told him what I was doing. I asked if he wanted to help out. I covered his flight. He covered his hotel room. And we had a blast. These things, when we reach big, the more you rely on your community, relationship networking, in-person, timeless strategies like, having a community, sharing service and values, these really go a long way no matter the tactics you use, okay? I did press releases on my website for Alberta Buzz. That way I used SEO, so I do links between all the different charity partners. And then I also sent off email newsletters. I have a pitch newsletter I send to my press. That's something that might work for your business if you know already a few different press contacts. Sending something out on a quarterly basis with evergreen stories is always a very good investment of your time. Evergreen stories are stories that can be used any time of year. One of my favorite recent examples, I was just talking to a business owner in Kensington. She owns a coffee and tea shop. She knew one of the developers that was building a condo across the street. They had a friend who was in press. They pitched the story of live, work, and play in Kensington. Her business got airtime at the 6 o'clock news. The condo developer got airtime at the 6 o'clock news. I'd like to think they got some results out of that. These don't take a lot of money, but they take time, which is why it's so important that we focus on the fact that it's standardized. You do not need to reinvent the wheel here. All right, the system's already in place. Press are looking for stories. You're looking to give stories. Two very basic principles that we can operate on. So, if you reveal your angle right away, you're not being rude. You're not being pushy. You're really just making it easier for everybody to do their job. That's the nice thing about this, right? Like I said, overall, we're looking at lowering stress. Overall, we're looking at building our business. So if we use strategies and tactics that can work to do this at the same time, I know I'm repeating myself a lot here this morning, but I really, really, like I said, this is my favorite tactic. The reason is because it gets to use all of my network. I can literally pick 3 people I know in this room or 2 people I know in this room and say, okay, what are you doing? What are you promoting? How do we make it work? How do we get it further? How do we expand your reach? How do I support you? Then instead, when I go to work the next day, I'm not thinking, okay, I got to pay this bill, and oh man, I got to go send those emails off, and then I got to put that pitch net. Oh man, no, it's oh wait, all of a sudden I've got, wow, me and Callie have an event coming up in a couple of weeks. I really got to let Sue know over at CBC Radio because I know she'd love it for the ride home with Rich Tofford or whatever his name is. I shouldn't say that. They never like that. But the point of the story is that I wake up in the morning going, how do I help my friends? How do I help my clients that I really care passionately about? Not how do I get the job done? That perception is the game changer. That is everything that we are going after here, because that motivation is what takes away all of your walls, turns them into little road bumps. You get over them, you move forward, and you move forward, and you move forward. A lot of business owners like myself, really, we get sucked into this place of frustration every time we see, like I said, that wasted time and money. And the more that we can, find ways to fail faster, I'm sure you guys have heard that a lot, all the better for our business, frankly. And Kevin didn't mention this, but lately in the spring, there's a lot of conferences and conventions that come through town. The majority of my clients right now are all people that have an event the next day or in a couple of weeks. They come to me and they say, well, I'm not really feeling it on my business card. You know what, I'd like to try a different way to, track online things. So I say, okay, try an about.me page, right? It tracks demographics, you get your clicks through or click-throughs. It tells you everything dedicated for that page. It's no cost. They're free pages. It's a service for me to put it together, but it's fun enough, it's simple enough, and it's a one-off where they get to go the next day, try it out at a conference where they're going to see a few hundred different people, and they're going to be able to see if it works or not right away. How neat of an idea is that for you to build your business, where you're saying, okay, this weekend I'm going to try something completely different. It's going to have very low risk, and it's really going to, if it's going to work, it's going to work big. That's the kind of stuff I like to work with. And that's why these media pitches work. Because you're working with your community, you're strengthening your support network, and you're building your business as well as their business. Now, watching your language. This goes for a couple of different things. And let me just, speaking of which, we're getting to the point where I'm going to actually start looking for Q&A soon. Okay, I know, Kevin, thanks. Now, watching your language, I've talked about this before, is keeping it short and to the point. You really only need to cover the details. As long as you have your elements in place, you don't need to worry about filler language, tweaking your messaging to make it more important. You've got the details. You've made it important. That's what they want to work with. And frankly, when they're talking to you on camera, on the phone, on Skype, on however they're going to get your interview and your information, they will tweak the message for their publication. So as long as you have faith in the context of the system, and know that you need to bring the details, the who, what, where, when, why, the person to talk to about it for a little bit of tweaking to make it fit their publication, all of a sudden your job becomes a lot easier. You know that you're just trying to fit into a system. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're not trying to start something from scratch. You're simply helping everybody else get better at their jobs. So watching your language means, yes, of course, watch your language. But also, if you can keep it simple and to the point and keep it to what people care about, then it's going to be received a lot better. And the reason I say this is because press people receive hundreds of pitches a day. This is not something new. Like I said, I'm not reinventing the wheel. There are hundreds of businesses in Calgary that will email all of the press and contacts in Alberta. So you want to make it so that when they see yours, they're going to take a look at it very quickly. And if you can train your contacts where they say, okay, this person sent me a pitch, but I know exactly, all I have to do is open it up, I can read through it, it's not going to take me to the ends of the earth to figure out what's going on. All of a sudden you have a way better working relationship with that press contact. They're going to be way more inclined to take a look at your media pitches, and they're going to also be more inclined to figure out more about you. And it's going to give them a chance to easily see the values, connect with you, and build your relationship on those points. Does that make sense? Excellent, we're getting some nods. Everybody's still awake. Okay, all right, so at this point, we are running a bit behind, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do, so I know that because we had the introduction today with Eric, I've used that as my case study, but one of the things I'm throwing around to all of my filmmaker friends, sorry about that, is the Shit People Say campaign. This is another prime example, because when people are working on film productions or doing a promo launch, or have a business that's going through a new development. And I hear this from my clients at the Calgary Petroleum Club as well. When the tsunami happened in Japan, they simply added a hashtag Japan to their investment strategies that they were dealing with in their partners in Japan. And they had way more people adding on to their Twitter follower list because of that. They had a lot more people paying attention to the product they were providing simply because they stayed relevant to current events. And this is why we get that column in our Twitter, in the tweet deck, and the Hootsuite, and all those that say what's trending. Because when you take a look at stuff like Shit People Say, pardon my language, it means that if you did your little version, and I've seen them everywhere. In fact, my contacts at Rain Dance in the UK are saying, Stacey, why aren't you getting your filmmakers to throw a 30-second video to put together what's, shit filmmakers say. People are already looking for this stuff. You are already using social media. Simply tweak both, and then we'll be able to make it a lot easier to get those two connected. Okay, so tips to remember. Now, this is something Kevin kind of went over when we did those cases studies this morning where we saw the mistakes happen. Word-to-mouth, peer-to-peer discussions are more influential than the mass media, period. This is why I keep saying, do not worry about your tools and tactics, people. Consider your strategies first and foremost, period. Make sure your relationships are strong. Service and values, at the end of the day, are number one. Participate by enabling and feeding the conversation. Every single one of those examples Kevin brought up, they continued the conversation. Even the Calgary Flames, even though we didn't go much into that one. But if you don't continue the conversation, why are you in social media? You're a broadcaster. You're not using the tool effectively. The effective use of social media comes from engagement. And then finally, being transparent and honest. We all learn. I remember the first time I started using Twitter, I was like, do I use emoticons or do I describe it? Do I say smile or what do I do? And I just would throw questions out like that once a week. And the nice thing about that was it built up my Twitter followers. It also meant that I had better relationships with the people on my Twitter feed because I was engaging with them about things that they valued. All right. So, we are currently at 9:49 a.m. Is there anything that we need to get happening before, or do we have time for Q&A?
Yeah. So thanks, Stacey.
Sorry about that. It's a bit of a rush.
What I'll do is, if you want to use that mic there, then if anybody has any questions for Stacey, I'll come to you and...
Yes, and I do apologize for the rush.
You can have the power of the mic. So I got a question.
Okay.
So, given the tools that small, medium, and large-sized businesses use, Twitter, blogs, Facebooks, what's the best way to serve up a good story to a journalist so it's easy for them to spread?
Great question. Here's the challenge. Every journalist is different. One of my favorite teachers would always say, make sure for radio you send drinks, make sure for television you send food, make sure for... There is always a different tactic. When it comes to social media, the best by far is an email newsletter, direct mail. Putting together a pitch newsletter or putting together a quick email with a press release in the body of the email makes it simple for someone to click it open, take a look at it, and then move on. You want people to see what you have. If you have a very large cover letter, an attached PDF, and not one of them talks about the who, what, why, when, and where, it'll never get looked at. So make sure your subject line has a couple of your pertinent details, the angle that people will care about, like why people are going to care about it, and then put it in the body of the email. Simple, to the point, and effective.
Any other questions? Oh,
yeah.
We have one very back.
I should have known.
Don't you worry.
Morning. Quick question about the press releases to oversee for international media. Are there any tips, any tricks with regards to vernacular, or any tips on how you should approach them?
I love that. Okay, so that's my personal geeky hat hobby. Like I said, I randomly call founders of independent film festivals and say, hey, how you doing? I love testing out different ways of getting people's attention. Sometimes a phone call will work, sometimes an email will work. But everybody here uses Twitter, so I'm going to start with that. There is a hashtag, HARO, help a reporter out. Super simple. It is a national listing. You can sign up for their mailing list. They will email you every day what people are looking for. Reporters will sign up and say, this is our publication, this is what we're looking for, please send us news about this. I've pitched National Geographic, I've pitched, just because of those ones, for the more independent or for the more national ones. Another way that I find, and this is why, there's ways of getting it out there in the first place. Twitter's a great way. Like I said, it's safe. If you can hashtag story pitch, media pitch, keep it very self-explanatory, very simple to the point, and say, hey, we've got this great event, or actually, I take that out. I just say, what I did, international, filmmaker coming to Calgary to support local filmmakers. Hashtag media pitch, send that off, or you say at Calgary Herald. Have you guys gone through your Twitter accounts and actually searched out media period? Okay, so let's start with the basics here. Okay, make a list of local coverage that you read. Perfect beginning. What do you actually read? What do you look at? What do you watch? What do you listen to? Make a list of your top 5. If it's art links on CGA, CGSW, if it's the Calgary Herald, if it's the Ride Home Show, if it's 66 CFR. If you're listening to it, it obviously reinforces some of your values, and chances are it's going to be shared amongst your clients and your audience. If not, you've got 5 different options to go from, right? So I never limit, don't put all your eggs in one basket, of course. So if you start out by searching out those brands, they all have branded Twitter handles, branded blogs, and branded content. If you resonate a piggyback tactic, okay, here's another one that you guys can try. And like I said, I'll be emailing you guys these. Piggyback tactic means you take a look at an article. At the very bottom of the article, it'll usually have an email address and a Twitter handle. Whether you're looking at Metro News, Calgary Herald, Calgary Sun, Globe and Mail, or your international counterparts. And I've done this with The Guardian in the UK and a few other different international publications. That means that you can very quickly tailor something that you know they're going to care about because you understand what they care about. Make sense? Excellent. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea of how to start those conversations. Now here's a neat little mastery tip. Because you've started a relationship based on shared services and values, you have an authentic relationship to build on. Because of that authentic relationship where people realize that you're not calling them to ask them for money or to do stuff, but really just listen to what they're talking about or support a friend, it makes it a lot easier for me to send an email to Elliot and say, Elliot, I have an article by my managing editor that I know I can't publish because it doesn't have feeding here, but I want to see if we can actually have footing in the UK. And this was a great example because what happened was the Prime Minister of the UK last year said, essentially he put out this wonderful article that said, indie filmmaking should be retired, we should focus on corporate and sponsorship, and so that we should focus on the big brands because that's what brings in business for our economy. Really infuriated every indie filmmaker I know. Needless to say, Joel writes up a very beautiful editorial. Elliot had written up an editorial in his. He had done that for the blog, right? So that was him leveraging his social media for press access locally. Now what we did was we said, okay, I have an article here. We can't publish it here, and it's relevant to your audience. Would you like to use this? He took down his posted article already after it had already been linked to the Guardian UK. So everybody that was looking at the Guardian blog would have been linked to that page and put Joel's article in that place. In fact, it's still there. So if you take a look, and this is, to me, this is entirely fascinating because it takes from you trying to get somebody's attention across the pond to one of your trusted friends essentially putting you forward and saying, I recommend this person. Hugely powerful. Way different, reaction to that than it's going to be you just pitching something to somebody that you just met off of the street. And that's what I'm really trying to reinforce here. I have a stronger community that I'm passionate about. And to me, like I said, I'm helping a friend out. I'm not necessarily having to do a job. Does that answer your question, Sean? Thanks.
Cool. We're getting close to 10, and I want to get everybody at least the opportunity to get out of here at 10. We have time for one more really quick question.
I can probably be loud enough.
Okay.
So I'm Jenna.
Hi, Jenna.
And, that was a great presentation. But I just had a question, what is your take on companies tweeting, like new hashtag FF, like Follow Friday, or hashtag, Happy Monday, and things like that, because I think that's valuable, and I suggested it, and some people were completely shut it down. No, we only tweet content. And it's this is how you get Twitter respect. So what is your take on that?
It's everywhere. As soon as you get to a business more concerned with controlling the conversation rather than engaging in the conversation, that's going to be their standard responses. The way that I go around that, or the way that I try and reinforce the value of those conversation pieces, which obviously I do value and support and say 150%, you really should be using those, because conversation should be 75% of your Twitter content, period. So that's the simplest way to shut them up. Or to say, there is value in this. Because if you can say successful tweeting accounts, 75% of their content is conversation, they go, what do you mean conversation? And that gives you a chance to say, well, those little Happy Mondays and FFs and those little hashtags really can make that move forward. And here's a neat way because, and obviously, like I said, it's safety. It's being able to do little steps that can make the process fun and engaging, and that's how you learn better. So you can say, okay, successful Twitter profiles, 75% conversation. Here's a suggested conversation. Let's do a couple of media pitches, and we'll try that for conversation. They're still producing content. They're still controlling the conversation, right? It's enough publicity that they feel like they've got enough input. But it allows you to throw out a couple new hashtags. It allows you to start building your community that way, and it's going to make them feel a little more comfortable in making that next step forward. Baby steps really are going to be critical for people to be able to better adapt. Change management, huge. And if we can encourage that mentality when you're creating your responses and creating your strategies, it's going to help you succeed in the long run.
Excellent. Hook up with media, serve them stories that have a good angle, and make life easy for them. 2011 was kind of a rough time for journalists there, so all the support that we give them using the tools of social media will be fantastic. So let's get out of here. A couple of last things is, first of all, thanks again to Mount Royal, Possibly Dog Daycare, and Riverwood Photo for sponsoring the event. If you want to sponsor and have me say some nice things about you and throw some slides on there, tweet us at SMByyc, or if you're not into the Twitter, you can talk to myself or Donna or Chet, any one of us. Next thing is, or the last thing is that if you need any information about the social media breakfast, so you're coming here, and for example today, you know where to park, maybe you didn't know where to go. There's a whole bunch of places that you might go to look for that information. Really, the best place is the Twitter account. SMByyc is the handle. Everything will be listed there, so if you don't know what to do, where to go,